This show starts against the romantic tropical backdrop of South America and features swashbuckling daredevils, buried treasure, jungle adventures, brilliant colour, philosophy, art, war, music, science, travel, and megalomaniac evil. Oh, and I forgot to mention, also religion, major disasters, and international skullduggery. The usual humdrum, run-of-the-mill history story. And what's it about? It's about how history sometimes behaves just like your friendly local cinema. It sometimes does reruns. You know, an old idea with a new twist. And when that happens, you find yourself with a definite sense of déjà vu. If you take a look at one of those old black and white adventure movies, you see how we Westerners used to think that in going out and grabbing bits of the world, we were actually doing all the people we happened to be taking over a favour. And since we hardly bothered to learn their languages, most of what they got up to just seemed like so much jungle mumbo-jumbo. So when the 16th century Spanish conquistadors got up the South American jungle, without the help of subtitles or language courses, they tended to take much the same view of the locals they came across. As far as they were concerned, well, the only good South American Indian was either dead, converted to Christianity, worked till he dropped, or best of all, sitting on top of a pile of gold and silver to which he invited you to help yourself. Which kind of sums up what happened in Peru when Pizarro moved in on the Incas. Of course, it was all worked out back home before they left. I mean, even if Columbus had gone back home to Europe without a clear idea of what he really stumbled across, it was better to have things properly planned for the conquest of whatever it might turn out to be, no? So the Pope drew an imaginary line, that one, on an imaginary map of an imaginary world. And if you were Spanish, everything west of this line was yours. What a pleasant surprise that turned out to be. In 1531, fortunately for Pizarro, as he and his men advanced up the jungle, this plan for taking over Inca real estate met virtually no resistance. Because after a while, there was virtually nobody around to resist. Thanks to a devastating disease the Spaniards happened to be carrying at the time, called smallpox, to which the natives had no immunity, and which conveniently reduced the local population of 30 million to 3 million. With a little prodding from Rome, Jesuit missionaries destroyed thousands of primitive temples and idols and other such religious paraphernalia and replaced them with this European equivalent. They moved people out of their villages and into security compounds, quote, for their own good, unquote, and then baptized them. As many as 1,500 a day. They opened colleges and churches to train Indians for the priesthood. That way you could baptize more locals. And once baptized, you were legally obliged to do what the Spaniards told you. Neat trick, eh? Connections² will return on the Learning Channel.
This portion of the Learning Channel is brought to you in part by Jeep and Eagle, a division of the Chrysler Corporation.
This is the award-winning Eagle Vision from the Chrysler Corporation. Eagle Vision. Pretty cool, huh?
Columbia.
Lisa Mickelson.
Brad Edwards with MCI.
We're all here today, along with other MCI employees, to bring you the biggest announcement in our history.
Join and save 40% on every call to every MCI customer you choose.
40% to your friends.
40% to your family.
Double the original friends and family savings.
40% that goes on and on.
Forever.
Keep watching. It gets even better.
There's lots more good news about friends and family, too. The next generation of savings from MCI.
I remember Grandma's baking, how she just had a hunch when the banana nut bread was ready. What a taste. Today in my kitchen, I enjoy that same home-baked taste every time I have this post-banana nut crunch cereal. Real banana baked into crunchy oat clusters mixed with chopped walnuts and crispy wheat flakes for an irresistible baked-in banana nut taste. You'll love it. I got a hunch. Try Banana Nut Crunch for home-baked taste in your cereal bowl.
Friday on the Learning Channel. It's Burke back to back. Tall in the saddle, the toast of the town, on the screen and underground.
Watch this.
With a first-class ticket to summarizing science and taming technology, weaving the threads of history into the future.
Ho, ho.
Don't miss it as James Burke brings you an entire evening of back-to-back episodes of Connections². Friday beginning at 8 on the Learning Channel.
Connections² is back as the Spanish conquistadors move in on South America. From about 1550, there was an all-out effort to make the settlers arriving from Spain feel really at home in the New World, with posh accommodation in specially built imitation Spanish towns, like Santo Domingo on the island of Hispaniola. I mean, if you didn't remind yourself that you were out on the edge of the known world, you would have sworn you were in downtown Madrid if you came round a corner and bumped into this, eh? It's the palace of the governor of Hispaniola, who was the son of Christopher Columbus. Come and take a look. This would have been like sleeping in your own bed back in Spain. Classic Spanish dining room. Spanish food, of course, cooked in a traditional Spanish kitchen. I wonder if they put the windows up here to hide the fact that out there was the middle of nowhere. Of course, those who might have been tempted to hightail it back to home and mother when nostalgia for the old country got the better of them probably gave it second thoughts. Given the death penalty for trying it. So, by and large, the settlers settled in considerable comfort. Most of them in the gold and silver export business, by now pouring billions into the Spanish treasury. Great news for the government back home in Spain. I mean, you can't be too rich, can you? Unfortunately for Spain, what you're looking at now is where most of that Inca money ended up. Not in Spain, but Belgium. Here in Antwerp, with all these beautiful Renaissance palaces that pull the tourists in. Built with South American money. Just thinking about the way a place like this looks, I wonder if it's true that a place has a particular character. I mean, Roman ruins, Paris boulevards, Viennese Baroque, Renaissance palaces. Because for one brief moment in the past, the place suddenly got loads of cash and spent all the money on improving the environment. Knocking down the mishmash that had been there before and doing the whole place up in the same posh style in fashion at the time. On the basis of, if you've got it, flaunt it. This is why Antwerp attracted money in the first place, because of what you could buy here, which was just about anything from just about anywhere. Now, I expect you're already noticing The one word missing from this little showcase is the word Spanish. See, all those settlers out in South America, with all that Inca money to spend, couldn't get the luxuries they could now afford from Spain because the Spanish domestic economy just wasn't diversified enough to come up with the goods. But the international port of Antwerp, which at the time belonged to Spain, was. So, with all the general wheeling and dealing, it won't surprise you to know that Antwerp also kicked off the stock market. The first one ever. Started here in 1531, with all the discount rates, bills of exchange, commodity prices, promissory notes, bulk trading, credit transfer, clearing houses, and the general pandemonium and financial gobbledygook that stock markets have been ever since. Because what all that Inca silver had done was turn Western life into the money-go-round it is today. Precious metals poured down these South American rivers, across the Atlantic, and into Antwerp in the form of silver bullion, and poured out again in the form of mortgages, credit notes, loans, you name it. For the first time, you could make big money by doing nothing. All you had to have was money, and there was now more of that around than ever before. Which is why colonies were invented, like this English colony in Virginia. See, at the time, the new way for a European country to be powerful, win wars, and so on, was to have a new thing called a positive balance of trade. All that meant was getting your hands on as much as possible of that Inca silver floating around Europe by selling things to other countries. And the cheaper your manufacturing costs, of course, the more profit you made, and the more positive your balance of trade. Hence the colonies, whose only purpose in life, apart from producing the bare necessities to keep themselves going, was to produce some commodity or other that you could sell all over Europe for large amounts of money. The commodity here in Virginia was tobacco, which by law had to be sent only to England, only on English ships, with only English crews, to only English merchants in only English ports. Putting the squeeze on a colony like this meant everybody back in England really made a packet. The only people who didn't clean up were the colonists, who didn't get to see any of the profits they had so kindly generated for the mother country. Actually, come to think of it, some of the money did end up getting back here, to Williamsburg. Or to be more exact, to the building behind me. It's the College of William and Mary. Nice, isn't it? The second oldest in the US, and a real pioneer in education. And more to the point, founded in 1693 with some of those trading profits I was talking about. Well, trading profits may not be quite the right way to describe them, because this is where history makes some really extraordinary connections. One, two, three, four, five. There was one other way besides trade to get your hands on Inca silver: knocking off Spanish treasure ships in the Caribbean on their way back from South America. And, since anybody else might then take the treasure off you, burying it temporarily for safekeeping. Look at that! Who knows how much treasure is still buried out here that they never came back for, eh? By they, I mean the kind of criminals who lived in this place, Port Royal, Jamaica. It was a certain type of person with whom otherwise quite respectable governments, especially the English, made the kind of arrangements that make Watergate look like Sunday school. I am, of course, talking pirates. most of whom were quietly under rob, pillage and plunder contract to the English government in return for 50% of whatever it was they managed to knock off. All strictly deniable, of course. I said they lived here in Port Royal, but not for long. Because at 11:57 on June the 7th, 1692, everybody's contract was cancelled by that thing they always put in small print, Act of God. An earthquake that would have been off the Richter scale if they'd had one. They never got the place straightened up since. Oh, I forgot the payoff. You remember I mentioned strange connections? Well, here's one. Since pirate profits could sometimes go as high as 5,000%, sometimes some of these privateering characters would do a little freelance work, and sometimes they'd get caught. Like a fellow called Wafer, whose punishment was his back pay for 3 years, money which the English government then used to set up the William and Mary College in Virginia. Remember? Connections² will return on the Learning Channel.
I'm a four-lane lover with some ground to cover. I'm in an interstate state of mind.
Ah! My phone book's gone. Thank goodness for this. Call accountant.
Yes!
Call Sprint for the voice-activated phone card, the easiest card on the road.
Is this a great country or what?
Imagination can take your mind to incredible places. For about $18,300, Jeep Cherokee Sport will make sure the rest of you gets there too.
The all-new Connections² with your host, James Burke. It's the thrill of history, all the excitement of invention. And now available on home video. A gift box set of 10 original programs is $179.95. To order, call toll-free and have your credit card ready. Across time, around the world, you'll take the ride of your life on this journey through knowledge. Critics said Connections was the best science series ever. This one's even better. So call now.
You're late.
I forgot, sorry.
This is the kind of stress you can do without. Do what 4 million people do every day. Use the Daytimer time management system.
It's a diary, a date book. It's my personal planner and organizer.
It's easy. Everything is right here. Contacts, appointments, plans, everything.
Now I stay on schedule.
Through this unconditionally guaranteed TV offer, the Daytimer time management system, a $75 value, can be yours for just $29.95. Everything you see here, you get. Planning pages, 2 pages per day for a full year. Phone and address directory pages. Reference pages, page markers, monthly tab dividers, and this personalized Daytimer binder covered in luxurious genuine leather for just $29.95. Add $5 shipping and handling. Use your credit card to order. Call 1-800-297-3950. Act now and receive a Diplomat pen, an $8.50 value. Yours to keep absolutely free. Call now.
Back again, we pick up the story with more pirates and further skullduggery. Meanwhile, more strange connections. One of the other pirates at Port Royal was a fellow called William Dampier, and at one point he went off down to the Yucatan to recruit a bunch of bloodthirsty buccaneers for a grand attack on Panama City. Now, those recruits only did their pirating part-time when they weren't cutting this stuff, logwood. You find it all over South America. You can get a great purple dye from logwood because there are crystals of the dye inside the wood, worth a fortune back then. So some of the Spanish galleons that these logwood cutters turned pirates hit for their gold and silver also carried logwood cargoes. And the other luxury dye from Mexico, cochineal. Back in England, the hijacked cochineal was mainly used to dye the First Army uniforms, kicking off the idea of redcoats and regimentation. concept of military discipline was taken several steps further by a distant ancestor of the lady reviewing the British Guards here today. She's Elizabeth II. The ancestor was Frederick the Great of Prussia, who practically invented the modern army with spit and polish, iron discipline, and permanently clean weapons. Frederick also introduced compulsory military service, brutal punishment, the slow and quick march, and regular pay. In 1742, he cut troop formations to 3 ranks to make them more maneuverable and drilled them round the clock. Not surprisingly, he won every battle he fought. Now, Fred was also nuts about anything French, and at this time they were heavily into education theory. So being a thorough Prussian, Fred took things to extremes. Set up the first Ministry of Education, primary school system, regular exams, school inspectors. Made the whole thing compulsory. Made German kids what they are today, disciplined and knowledgeable. Which got his in-house philosopher thinking about knowledge. And in the nutshell this program has to put everything, here's what he came up with. The only way that anything you know, reality out there, has any order to it is because your mind gives it order, with categories. What is something? What does it do? Where is it? When is it? For instance, fire heats. Here, now. Once you've put the world into those categories, you can fill in the details. And he also said knowledge is really only 2 things. History, categorizing everything in time, and geography, categorizing everything in place. Music to the ears of simplifiers like me. Thank you, Immanuel Kant, whose ideas also persuaded a young man to leave the elegant sitting rooms of Berlin for the dubious pleasures of the jungle. The young man's name was Alexander Humboldt, and in 1799, all excited by what Kant had said about categorizing knowledge, he went off to spend 5 years in South America, inventing geography and environmentalism. Everywhere he went, he saw evidence of the intimate relationship between plants and animals and people, and the place where they lived. The environment held the key to success for all life forms. Humans were no different from the nature all around them. When he got back home, Humboldt wrote the bestseller of all time about his trip and changed everything people thought about the world. In 1874, one of Humboldt's greatest fans, a German travel writer called Ratzel, went on a tour of the United States. And it hit him like a ton of bricks. Humboldt was right. Environment was everything. A nation was just like an organism in nature. It needed space to thrive and multiply and spread. Look at the US, he said. Big country, big future. What Germany needed was room to breathe. Colonies. Fortunately for Ratzel, the theory of evolution has just come out, so he goes home, puts together a mishmash of Darwin and Humboldt, and starts laying them in the aisles with public lectures on the subject of human geography. Totally hits the spot with his German co-nationals, who've just become a united country for the first time and are thinking of, well, moving out and taking over here and there. But Ratzel really blows them away when he starts to talk about how there's only room on the planet for one superstate, how nations and nature obey the same rules of survival. In 1932, the book Ratzel had written about his theory excited a fellow called Haushofer, one of whose politically radical friends was in jail and writing his own book. When Haushofer showed him Ratzel's work, this guy read just what he was thinking himself. Only through expansion could Germany fulfill her destiny as one of history's winners. Superior organisms like Germany needed room. So when his book came out, it was all there. Racial purity, Aryan conquest, world domination. I presume you've guessed the name of this author.
Deutschland, die Heil! Heil!
Well, that's almost it. The name of that book that Ratzel was inspired by Humboldt to write when he got back from America, the one about expand and take over, was Lebensraum. And thanks to Haushofer and his pals in prison, Lebensraum, expansionism, became part of Nazi policy. Lebensraum plans came in several stages. After winning the war in 1942, the plan would be, what else? Move out and take over. Make sure of raw material supplies forever by grabbing Central Africa and then South America. With plans for the locals here almost exactly the same as those of the Spanish conquerors centuries before. Fortunately for the locals here, and for the rest of us, that particular example of history repeating itself never made it past the Nazi movie makers. Hasta la vista.
Sometimes you can fly. Sometimes you're being chased. But why do you dream in the first place? We'll investigate next on Mysteries of the Brain. After that, witness open heart surgery on The Operation.
Connections², back-to-back, Friday beginning at 8 on TLC.
Savan No Wrinkle Pants with Process 2000. They're not the only 100% cotton no wrinkle pants. They're the only ones that'll stay that way. It's because they're the ones made with our exclusive Process 2000. It's washed in, and unlike others, it lasts for the life of the pants. Savan, the original no wrinkle pants with Process 2000. The only no wrinkle pants that'll stay that way.
He dreamed of alien fighting machines, of the human race in jeopardy. But was it science fiction or veiled prophecy? He dreamed of utopia, of a world without nations. But was his vision infected by racism?
We interrupt for this special bulletin. The Martians have landed. We repeat, the Martians have landed. Please evacuate in an orderly manner.
H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds on Great Books. Saturday at 10 on the Learning Channel.
The all-new Connections² with your host, James Burke. It's the thrill of history, all the excitement of invention. And now available on home video. A gift box set of 10 original programs is $179.95. To order, call toll-free and have your credit card ready. Across time, around the world, you'll take the ride of your life on this journey through knowledge. Critics said Connections was the best science series ever. This one's even better, so call now.
Coming up next, take a fantastic voyage into the mysteries of the brain, an exclusive world premiere series. Then at 1, stay tuned for The Operation, tonight on TLC.
Hello, I'm Roger Bingham. Tonight, while you sleep, you will see your own private movie. You'll be the writer, producer, director, audience, maybe even the star. It'll seem real, but tomorrow it may have melted away, leaving only tantalizing traces, because it was just a dream. But what are dreams? Are they omens or prophecies? Can they give us insights into ourselves? Can we learn how to use them? Or are they just random, meaningless images manufactured by the brain, the kind of mental froth on the surface of sleep? Why are we in this magic theater of the night? And what happens inside? Most of us sleep about 8 hours a night, and we spend nearly 2 hours of that in the land of dreams. It's a place where anything can happen, and often does. A place where we meet strange people, have strange conversations, do strange things. And then, with the light of day, we return with our traveler's tales. Tales of journeys inside our own brains.
Let's begin with one of those tales. Jessica's dream. She describes it to psychologist Dr. Ernest Rossi.
In the dream, I'm rowing on the ocean, and I'm going along, and everything is all right, and suddenly the waters part, and after a while, my boat is in the bottom of the ocean. And I get out of the boat and step and look around, and I can see the caverns of the ocean, and fish are jumping around, and because they have no water. And then suddenly I hear a rumble, a very large rumble, and it's frightening. It's like an earthquake almost. And the sound that gets louder and louder. And I become very frightened, and I look, and in both directions, both ways, I see these huge walls of water approaching, and I put my hands down, and in my dream I die before the water crushes me from the sound. The rumbling and the sound is so great that I die, and then I wake up.
We'll explore Jessica's dream later, but first let's go back to the man whose theories of dreaming were the cornerstone of psychoanalysis, Sigmund Freud. Dreams, Freud thought, were a kind of safety valve that allowed us to let off psychic steam being generated by taboo desires in our unconscious minds. This extract from a piece called Hungers by video artist Ed Emschwiller seems uncannily Freudian. These X-rated emotions, Freud said, were disguised by an internal censor, then emerged, hidden behind symbols and strange stories during dreams. If we could understand the dream's symbolism, Freud believed, we could discover the underlying meaning. Freud's one-time disciple, Carl Jung, had a different interpretation of dream content. Again, an artist's imagination seems to illustrate the analyst's theories. This video is by David M. According to Jung, we all share an ancient collective unconscious, populated with archetypal figures and symbols that we use as the raw material for our dreamscapes. The key point is this. Both Freud and Jung believed that dreams were messages scripted and produced by the unconscious. By the early 1950s, using the kind of techniques we're simulating here, researchers were beginning to cast serious doubt on purely psychological theories of dreaming. They looked instead for possible biological roots of our nightlife. Volunteers at sleep labs were wired up to electrodes connected to a machine that measures eye and muscle movements, heart rate, and the electrical activity of the brain, the EEG. This is the Sleep Disorders Clinic at the University of California, Los Angeles, one of a nationwide network of sleep labs exploring the frontiers of the night.
Good night, Roger.
Good night. Volunteers are closely observed as they sleep. Cameras in the room record their movements. And while the dreamer takes off on his nocturnal flights of the imagination, information from the monitoring equipment is relayed to the pens of a polygraph that trace out the signature of sleep. Through the night, that signature changes dramatically. On the left is deep sleep. The eyes are actually still. The little activity you see is being conducted through the skin from the EEG. Muscle tone is reduced, and the EEG shows characteristic, large, slow brain waves. On the right is REM sleep. The eye movements are rapid, hence the term rapid eye movement or REM sleep. Again, muscle activity is reduced, but the EEG shows rapid brain waves, more like an active, awake brain. Most of us, awakened from REM sleep, report having vivid dreams. The first REM period begins after about 90 minutes of sleep, then alternates with non-REM sleep, repeating at roughly the same 90-minute intervals through the night. Each REM dream time is longer than the one before. So, if you go to sleep about 11, your first REM period should be midnight, and the best time to catch your longest dream will be about 6 or 6:30 in the morning.
Mysteries of the Brain will continue on TLC.
This portion of the Learning Channel is brought to you in part by the GM card.
Of all your auto care choices, only one lets you earn up to 10% toward a new GM vehicle, your GM dealer, because only your GM dealer is a member of the GM MasterCard's new Accelerated Earnings Network, which helps you get a new car or truck.
Cliff Lynn joined CompuServe because he travels a lot, and CompuServe makes traveling a whole lot easier. It turned his computer into a kind of travel expert to help him find great locations for photography and save time and money getting to them. Cliff found that with CompuServe, there was always more to discover, like useful programs he could download and advice from photographers around the world. CompuServe. For more information, call 1-800-554-4024. Start with the basics, news, travel, an encyclopedia, and more for just $8.95 a month. Then go beyond for free software and help with hardware and software problems. You'll get more out of your computer and more out of life. CompuServe, the information service you won't outgrow.
Savan No Wrinkle Pants with Process 2000. They're not the only 100% cotton no wrinkle pants. They're the only ones that'll stay that way. It's because they're the ones made with our exclusive Process 2000. It's washed in, and unlike others, it lasts for the life of the pants. Savan, the original no wrinkle pants with Process 2000. The only no wrinkle pants that'll stay that way.
He dreamed of alien fighting machines, of the human race in jeopardy. But was it science fiction or veiled prophecy? He dreamed of utopia, of a world without nations. But was his vision infected by racism?
We interrupt for this special bulletin. The Martians have landed. We repeat, the Martians have landed. Please evacuate in an orderly manner.
H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds on Great Books. Saturday at 10 on the Learning Channel.
We now continue with Mysteries of the Brain on TLC.
To scientists, there's an important clue here. If we have such a regular sleep and dream cycle, then presumably it's a natural biological rhythm. We also know that REM sleep decreases with age. Infants sleep about 16 hours a day. Half of that, 8 hours, is REM sleep. Even fetuses in the womb have rapid eye movements. This isn't just a human behavior. almost all mammals have REM sleep. On the other hand, reptiles don't. So it seems that during the transition from reptiles to mammals, REM sleep evolved. To a biologist, that suggests that REM sleep must have powerful survival value. It has become part of our genetic legacy. We are, in a sense, programmed to dream. But why and how? In the late 1970s, Harvard scientists Alan Hobson and Robert McCarley suggested a controversial answer. It was already known that cells in an area of the brainstem, just above the spinal cord, are activated during REM sleep. According to Hobson and McCarley, these cells transmit a flurry of signals that trigger responses in other parts of the brain. The cortex, trying to make sense of it all, then tries to weave some kind of a story out of the bombardment of sensory information. The result is a dream. Nothing more than a spin-off from night shift neurons causing a commotion in the cortex. It's the opposite of Freud and Jung's belief that the unconscious has a story to tell and then finds illustrations in the brain's image bank. For the scientists, the images come first and the story follows. That may be why time and scenes can change so suddenly in dreams. It's simply an abrupt shift from one brain circuit to another. Some sleep researchers, like UCLA neuroscientist Jerry Siegel, now believe that the Hobson-McCarley idea may be simplistic. Siegel argues that higher regions of the brain, including the cortex, can play an active role in controlling REM sleep and dreaming.
REM sleep essentially is an interaction of this very phylogenetically old part of the brain, very primitive part of the brain, with the higher centers, in which the higher centers are influencing the brainstem, and the brainstem is in turn influencing the higher centers in a very complicated way.
To explore these basic brain mechanisms, recordings are made of the electrical activity of single brain cells during waking and REM sleep. Some cell groups switch on during REM, others switch off. Information is relayed between cells by chemicals called neurotransmitters. Some of these messenger molecules cause cells to fire, others inhibit them. So, our different shades of consciousness, from waking to sleep to dreaming, are the result of ever-changing concentrations of brain chemicals.
Quit using your good balls for banging like that. Quit it now. Get the hell out of here. Go out in front then now. That's about 4 times this morning that I told you. I don't know if you're that deaf or that dumb.
This is what can happen when the finely tuned machinery of sleep and dreams develops a glitch. This man talks in his sleep and walks around.
One night she woke me up, and when I woke up, I was sitting at the edge of the bed like this with my hand down there, and I was going, kitty, 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 kitty. And she was sitting there laughing at me, and she says, Mel, what are you doing? And I says, petting the cat. She said, we haven't got a cat, and we don't. Then I woke up and went back to bed.
This tape, produced by Dr. Carlos Schenk of the Minnesota Regional Sleep Disorders Center, shows patients with REM sleep behavior disorder, a problem that's only recently been identified in humans. Because the cells that would normally inhibit muscular activity fail to fire, these patients act out their dreams, sometimes violently. Fortunately, they can be helped by drug therapy. It's another indication that we're beginning to understand the biochemistry of sleep. But does that mean that neuroscience has unlocked the mystery of dreams, and that we should abandon the psychological explanations of Freud or Jung?
Mysteries of the Brain will continue on TLC.
My luggage is on the wrong flight? What the hey? You know, all my business numbers are in my luggage. It's going to Bolivia. How zany. Hey, who needs phone numbers with this? Call travel agent. One word, Arnie. Bolivia.
Call Sprint for the voice-activated phone card. It'll change the way you talk about business travel.
Of all the places you can go to take care of your car or truck, only one lets you earn up to 10% of your parts and service costs towards a new GM vehicle. Your GM dealer. Because only your GM dealer is a member of the GM Card's new Accelerated Earnings Network. A select group of businesses that can double your GM MasterCard earnings with no earnings cap, which helps you get a new car or truck. The GM Card, today's financial vehicle.
Their history was almost lost. Their culture is misunderstood. But the remarkable Mayan legacy lives on in the remnants of jungle cities. Writers and artists, warriors and entrepreneurs. Some thrived while others fell. Don't miss a riveting presentation that sheds new light on this exotic spiritual world. Searching for the Maya on Ancient Journeys. Thursday at 8 on the Learning Channel.
Smells terrific. Is that beef stew you're cooking?
Yes. And I'm also studying a course in computer programming.
You're probably thinking you don't have the time to train for a better career, even if it means more money. But you do with ICS. Just call this 800 number for free information on training at home with ICS. Choose from high school, TV VCR repair, computer programming, electrician, animal care specialist, auto mechanics, PC repair, bookkeeping, legal assistant, small business management, fitness and nutrition, learning the personal computer, electronics, or get your degree. You can major in business management or accounting.
If I had to rush off to night school, I'd miss reading to Jimmy. It's one of the few moments that we have to spend together.
Everything you need to learn will be delivered to your door, so you can get a degree or diploma in your spare time.
Call now for free information from ICS. Then decide if you want to train at home for a better career to make more money. Call 1-800-354-1300. There's absolutely no obligation. That's 1-800-354-1300.
We now continue with Mysteries of the Brain on TLC.
Every day, our senses are bombarded by new information that our brains have to process. Some scientists have suggested that, like an offline computer, one that's disengaged from the external world, our sleeping brains are constantly processing new images, comparing them with old memories, and updating their programs. Most of the time, we're simply not aware of this routine maintenance work, but occasionally, glimpses of the new programs being run by the brain's night shift surface, and those glimpses become dreams.
That's just one of the speculations about why we have REM sleep and dreams. Many of the theories use computer analogies. During REM sleep, for example, the brain is still active, but it receives no input from the outside world. In the same way, when a computer runs and amends existing programs, it's taken offline. Some sleep theorists have suggested that without our offline night shift capability, our brains would have become overloaded trying to handle the daily traffic of sensory information. REM sleep, then, may be Mother Nature's economical way of keeping us on top of things without driving us crazy. It's an intriguing idea, but is there any real evidence that we spend part of the night processing new data? How do we prove that our daily sensory experience finds its way into our dreams? Well, that's just what researchers Howard Rothwag and John Herman tried to do, using these. It's a simple experiment, but ingenious. You see, these are ordinary welder's goggles, but they have special filters that let only red light in. So it's really like looking at the world through rose-tinted goggles. Volunteers wore these goggles for about a week. At night, they were monitored in a sleep lab. And sure enough, when they were awakened from REM sleep, in their dreams, they saw red. So, it seems that our daily experience can be replayed in the theater of the night. But why? Nobel Prize winner Francis Crick has suggested that dreams are a kind of overnight cleaning up operation. In REM sleep, he argues, the brain sorts through its latest sensory inputs and dumps anything that might become distracting or even damaging if it was permanently stored in the filing system of our memories. It's a bit like nightly debugging of a computer program to prevent future breakdowns. Other scientists have argued that REM sleep is a sort of pilot light for the brain. Without it, we might lapse into terminal loss of consciousness. Instead, it periodically fires up the brain circuits in preparation for full waking activity. But perhaps the speculation about dreams that resonates best with our individual experiences is that they're a kind of learning process, a rehearsal for life. Maybe in dreams, we're problem solving. Let's go back to Jessica's dream.
And in my dream, I die before the water crushes me from the sound. The rumbling and the sound is so great that I die, and then I wake up.
Could this be the product of cells firing randomly in the brainstem? Did they somehow conjure up, say, the memory of a boat ride? And did her brain, trying to make sense of it, then invent the rest of the plot? Or is this a message from her unconscious? She's had a dream like this several times over the past 5 years. How and why does it recur? Scientists speculate that the biochemical mechanisms of permanent memory storage are switched off during REM sleep, so very little sticks. That's why we forget most dreams so easily. But when we wake up during a dream, our brain chemistry changes, and the images are stored in the attic of our memories. But what should we do with our dreams? Leave them there like unwanted gifts? Or take them down, examine them, and try to understand them? Dr. Rossi.
You tune into your dreams, you start recording them. You start just wondering about them and see if you do not find patterns of meaningfulness. Most people who do take the task seriously do find those patterns. And the fascinating thing is that the meaning is evolving, it's changing as we ourselves are changing. Both Freud and Jung have tremendous genius, a tremendous amount of wisdom. However, we can't slavishly follow them. Our generation is different, our consciousness is different, and we have to go back to the source within ourselves. So that would be the important message I'd like to communicate. We can learn from models of the past, but in the final analysis, when I have this dream, it's my dream, and I have to dialogue with it, I have to reflect upon it to see what meaning is being created.
So what is the meaning of Jessica's dream, or yours, or mine? According to Dr. Rossi, it's not fixed. Through dialogues with our dreams, we can continually create new meaning. At the beginning of this program, I compared us to producers, directors, writers, actors, and audiences in the theater of the night. To a psychoanalyst, maybe that's just another way of saying our unconscious. Of course, to many neuroscientists, brains are us. Our night theater is a production. Could that be a valuable skill? Well, there is growing evidence that our mental attitudes can affect our bodily well-being via the immune system. Is it possible that similar mechanisms might operate as we sleep? Could we learn to produce healing images and control the chemistry of dreams? Or is that just a dream?
Our journey through the landscapes of the night is just beginning. Scientists have started to map the terrain, looking for areas in our brains that may produce these private late shows. But dreams remain an enigma. They're as much poetry as physiology. In fact, a poet may have put it the best. We are such stuff as dreams are made on, and our little life is rounded with a sleep. Pleasant dreams.
Connections²,